Hey guys, Miss DeHaven back again. We are going to be ordering fractions and decimals using all of the skills that we have been learning over the last couple of weeks. So to begin, on the board you see 2 decimals and 2 fractions. We know that when we compare decimals, we need to line up the place values. So to start us off, we want to focus on these 2 decimals first and line up our place values by lining up our decimal points. So we have 8/10ths on the top and 35/100ths on the bottom, and then we add a 0 just to make it look even and nice. If we look at our tenths place, which is our largest decimal place value, we know that 8/10ths is much larger than 35/100ths. All right, so that's out of the way. Now, if we wanted to use the other strategy that we've learned this week to compare these 2 fractions, we know that we can use the butterfly method. So to do that, we're going to take our denominator and multiply up to the other fraction's numerator and write the product above it. So 4 times 2 is 8, and 5 times 3 is 15. So I know that 3/4 is larger than 2/5. So now we know that 8/10ths is much larger and 3/4 is the largest fraction, right? Here's the largest decimal and the largest fraction. But we really don't know if which one's really bigger. So we could use the box method and convert these fractions into decimals just to make life easier. So let's do that. We are going to take 3/4 and make it into a decimal using our handy dandy box method. Make our 4 place values and place our decimal. Top goes in and bottom goes out, and add our invisible zeros. 4 cannot go into 3. 0 times 4 is 0. Subtract and I get 3. Bring it up. 4 goes into 37 times. 7 times 4 is 28. Subtract and I get 2. Bring it on over. 4 goes into 25 times, and even 20, bringing us to that 0. So 3/4 is equivalent to 7/500. So I'm going to line that up over here with my other decimals. So now we can convert 2/5. I'm going to make my box. Top in, bottom out decimal, and imaginary zeros. 5 cannot go into 2. 0 times 5 is 0. Subtract, I get 2. 5 can go into 20 4 times. And we can stop there because we have our 0 here. And so now we have everything done. I'm going to add a 0 as a placeholder just to make them all nice and even. And now we can compare all the tenths place and order them from greatest to least. So as we know, this 7/500ths was our 3/4, and this 4/10ths was our 2/5. So now we can order these guys. So if we're going from least to greatest, our smallest place or our smallest number is going to be this 3, and that is the 35/100ths. Next would be this 4, and that came from our 2/5. Finally, our next would be our 7/500ths, which came from our 3/4. And then the greatest is our 8/10ths. Look at that. We ordered fractions and decimals using those strategies. Let's do a couple more. We'll do one more set. This is what you guys are going to work on in small group today. So let's start with, we'll do 45/100ths 2/3, 1/2, and 6/10. So as we know, if I'm looking at our decimals here, we want to line those up by place value and have all the decimals lined up, and then add zeros as placeholders just to make them nice and pretty. We could use the butterfly method and figure out which ones of these are bigger, or we could simply just convert them to decimals. That's my favorite strategy, and it works the best. Butterfly can have its flaws. So we are going to use our box method. We'll start with 2/3. Top goes in, bottom goes out, our decimal point, and our zeros. 3 can't go into 2. 0 times 3 is 0. Subtract, and I get 2. 3 can fit in a 20 6 times. 6 times 3 is 18, and I'll get 2 again. Bring it over. If you know this, it is going to be a repeating decimal. It goes on and on forever and ever. It is 666 times infinity, so it does not stop. So to show that, we can either do an ellipse or show a line on the top. So that is 2/3. Now let's do 6/10. Oh, not 6/10, 1/2. If we should already know what 1/2 is, this is equivalent to 0.5. So now we have everything converted and lined up. So we are going to compare. Oops, that's not what I wanted. We are going to compare our place values. So looking at our largest place values, which is our tenths, we can figure out our smallest, which is going to be 45 hundredths. Once that's out of the way, we have a 5, and that came from our 1/2, right here. That came from him. And then we have 2 6s, so we have to go to the next place value to compare it because these two are the same. This one has a 0 and this one has a 6. So the 0 is obviously smaller. So 6/10 is the third least, and the highest is going to be 2/3. That's 6 repeating. So this is in order from least to greatest. So the best strategy to use is to convert fractions into decimals and then compare the decimals by lining up the place values and comparing the tenths place because that is the largest decimal place value. So you will work on this in small group today. Good job, guys.